A girl who had been in coma for 4 years suddenly woke up. But when she started speaking, what she said surprised everyone, and that was just the start of the story. Victoria Arlen was a lively kid who enjoyed dancing and sports, and she was one of triplets with 2 brothers. But when she was 11 years old, things took a bad turn. She got sick with symptoms like the flu, fainted a few times, and her health got worse. Her brain and spinal cord became very inflamed, and she lost the use of her legs. She couldn't talk anymore and fell into a deep sleep, like being in a very long dream. But 4 years later, something amazing happened that surprised her family and doctors. Eventually, she couldn't even communicate. She fell into a deep sleep, but her story wasn't over. Victoria was kept alive with a feeding tube, and even though her parents were told she might not get better, she could hear her family talking to her. When she started to wake up mentally, her body wouldn't respond. She could hear everything around her and wanted to react, but her body wouldn't do what she wanted. She had no way to tell people what was happening to her. She was locked inside her own body, where she would remain a prisoner for years. As if someone had flipped a switch, she could not control her body, but she was there, listening. Unable to respond, she heard doctors tell her family that she was effectively brain dead and would be a vegetable for the rest of her life. They were wrong, and shockingly, no one can tell you that better than Victoria herself. But my parents believed in me. They set up a hospital room in our house in New Hampshire and took care of me. My 3 brothers, I'm a triplet, and we have an older brother, talked to me and kept me in the know about what was going on outside of my room. They empowered me to fight and get stronger. They didn't know I could hear them, but I could, Victoria said. According to ESPN, nearly 4 years after slipping into a coma, Victoria was completely out of her vegetative state. Her remarkable recovery began after she was finally able to make eye contact with her mother and blink on command. Then, she was able to move a finger, which progressed to waving her hand as she slowly regained control of her body. She even began eating. Eventually, she began to talk again, first forming single words, then full sentences. Despite her incredible recovery, there was still one thing she couldn't do. Victoria was told that the swelling to her brain and spinal cord had caused permanent damage, paralyzing her from the waist down forever. She couldn't move her legs, and specialists continuously told her to get used to being in a wheelchair. Once again, Victoria proved she had the willpower few others could even imagine as she fought to overcome impossible odds, but it wasn't easy. She faced struggles and even bullying as she returned to school. Just like before, however, Victoria found the turning point she needed. No stranger to water, Victoria had grown up near a lake, learning to swim at an early age. She had even been part of a swim team, taking part in competitions prior to her coma. However, without the use of her legs, Victoria feared she would never swim again. Thank goodness, her brothers thought differently and threw her into the family pool. Although she was initially terrified, it was just what she needed. To her delight and surprise, she was a strong swimmer, and she was free from her chair when in the water. With that freedom, she found the confidence she'd been missing and went on to become part of the U.S. team competing in the 2012 Paralympic Games, where she took home 3 silver medals and 1 gold in the 100-meter freestyle, in which she even set a new world record. Her achievement thrust Victoria into the spotlight. She was invited to speak as a lecturer and began to tell her story to reporters, captivating audiences. Still, she was bothered by her wheelchair, so she and her mother temporarily moved to San Diego so Victoria could participate in the Project Walk program, which helps paralyzed people regain the ability to use their legs. But of course, Victoria missed home. We realized this was the place that could help me, but we didn't want to live hundreds of miles away from my brothers and dad, Victoria explained before revealing that her family decided to open the first Project Walk franchise on the East Coast. She furthered, "This way, I could train every day and achieve my goal, while others in my hometown could regain the hope they needed." Even though specialists remained skeptical, and one doctor even told her parents that he wouldn't mortgage his house to bet that Victoria would ever be able to walk again, that's exactly what they did in order to afford to open a Project Walk Boston. Then, held in a harness above a treadmill with 2 coaches helping her move her legs, Victoria took her first small steps 6 years after she first woke up. It was no easy feat, but she didn't stop there. She got up and trained for hours every single day to reach her goal. Because of her determination, She was eventually able to walk with crutches, later ditching the assistive devices and walking independently. "Walking is still challenging and I still have significant impairment," she explained, "but my struggle is now less visible. But it's all worth it," she said of the effort it takes for her to continue progressing. "It's been 10 years since I was able to look someone in the eye instead of staring at everyone's butts all day," she added, referring to the unfortunate position she finds herself in when seated in a wheelchair. When Victoria first got up from her wheelchair, she was worried about how people would react. But she realized that her journey was hers alone and could bring hope to others who needed it. Today, Victoria is not only a Paralympic gold medalist, but also works for ESPN. She's a survivor. Victoria's 10-year journey has been tough, but she's a living miracle and an amazing inspiration. She knows she didn't do it all by herself and is thankful for everyone who helped her. She thought taking her first steps was the end, but it was just the beginning. Victoria Arlen is a brave and inspiring woman who didn't give up. She uses her story to encourage others who feel like giving up. As Helen Keller said, "Being hopeful and confident leads to achievement." We admire Victoria for showing us how true that is.